4.0, I think we see what that reference means. 95% of manufacturers report a positive outlook. The trends really in the manufacturing space are very positive, and as a result, we think it bodes well for that particular industry. But we also think that there's lots of noise. There's lots of discussions around topics that are creating some challenges. But what I want to do is cover some economic, give you some perspective and some background, and then we'll get into a little bit of some of the issues we think are relatively important. And so RSM has its own economics team, and our group believes that we're going to come in this year at about a 3.1% GDP growth. That's the best growth in the past 10 years. So in spite of maybe a slower start to the year, we had a strong third quarter, and the numbers just came out yesterday, showed about a 3.5% growth for the month. So I think we're seeing a lot of strength. There was a lot of hope that the tax law change. Anyone benefit from the tax law change personally? Hopefully. Business-wise, we're not quite sure. There's a lot of complexity to it, and I'm going to cover some of those issues today. But we don't think that benefit that will really come from the tax overhaul is going to last much past 2020. People will really have taken advantage of that. What really is driving our economy has been and continues to be strong U.S. consumer purchasing. The U.S. economy is about a $17 trillion economy, and about 70% of that is U.S. consumer spending. That's a big number. We spend a lot of what we make, but the fact is we make more than most countries in this world, and therefore we are spending a lot, even though China clearly has a lot more people than we do. And we're also expecting to see more continuing outlays in the equipment area. The companies are finding that there's opportunities to use some of the tax savings, at least that was the hope, to spend on new products. But we also know that companies are spending more around software and technology. It is becoming an area that requires a little bit more emphasis. The National Association of Manufacturers, the largest lobbying group, as a result of our firm spending a lot of money, I get to sit on the board, which means I get to get in a room with a lot of really smart people. A lot of whether it be companies that have 20 employees all the way up to companies that are 50 billion in revenues. I have an opportunity to interact with them, and I'll tell you some stories about some of the opportunities I had. But what we see here is that 92.5% of the companies are bullish on their outlook. So show of hands, who's bullish on their company today? Okay, so maybe some people aren't quite sure. I'm not going to ask people not to raise their hand if they're not bullish. We don't want to cover that. But from an industrial production and manufacturing standpoint, we think that there's continuing demand at a global basis as well as the U.S. basis. We know that auto production has been strong. I think there's a Toyota plant nearby. Well, if you think about what's been happening in the automotive space, Ford has announced that they're going to get out of the sedan market. They're no longer going to bring sedans to the U.S. Other companies the foreign companies like Toyota, Honda are all stepping in to fill the void. Companies are going to where they can find the sales, and the U.S., as a result of lower gas prices, is going to the bigger SUVs, and the Ford F-150, I think, is reigning as the largest selling vehicle in the country. We've also seen tariff discussions, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but we've seen that companies have been pulling forward some of their activities, so the growth and strength that we saw in the third quarter was really a result of some companies deciding we need to get ahead of the curve of what may be happening with tariff front. So manufacturing is strong. If you look at the line that says 50, when a survey is done of purchasing managers across the U.S., any number above 50 is considered to be a sign of strength. And if you just take a look at this, we have been dancing well above that 50 threshold for some time, and actually it looks like it's trending. So from a supply, if anyone's involved in the purchasing side of the business, hopefully this says that you feel strong about where your company is going to be and the products that it's intending to buy. So we took a global snapshot and tried to look at how companies are progressing. And what we see is that the U.S. remains strong, that the German markets are slowing down. Paying attention to what's going on in the newspapers recently. Angela Merkel is having some challenges with her government, and I think it continues to demonstrate some movement that I think is a little bit difficult. And then we've got the J.P. Morgan numbers. So overall, the U.S. space looks very strong. Year over year, industrial production, if you look at the numbers, you got to feel pretty good if you're in that space. The numbers are continuing to move in the right direction. And what we're seeing is a strengthening of the non-durable goods, with the products that last longer. Companies, again, are continuing to decide that they want to make some investments in that space. One of the things we also evaluate is as a percentage of gross domestic product, what is the investments that are being made in our economy? And while the numbers look like relatively strong, sitting at somewhere about 18% of GDP. That continued reinvestment in our economy provides the infrastructure to ensure that on a long-term basis, our economy will remain strong. And then when we look at what we expect to find on a go-forward basis, the actual manufacturing production, those numbers remain strong. It's a little bit less than the overall economy. That manufacturing has been sitting somewhere in the 2.5% level. And on a go-forward basis, we expect maybe to come down a little bit as we go into the next year. Still, if you compare where we are as a country, the United States, to other parts of the world, China is slowing, Germany is having some challenges, although we're seeing some emerging markets change a little bit. But I think we all have to recognize this, that we really operate in a global world. Used to be, it was our little country, and now it's really a part of it. When we think about the supplies that come in, the products that come in, the raw materials that come into this country, we really have become a global economy. And we're really affected by everything that goes along. If you remember going back a few years ago, there was a phrase they referred to the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. They were going to be the next machine that really drove the world. Well, if you think about what's happened, Brazil is the biggest mess that you could imagine. Russia's not doing very much. India, I think, is growing. And China, I think, has had a little bit of slowing. So they're now talking about the I's, Dubai, Shanghai, and Mumbai as being really the growth where we expect to see things into the future. So we ought to pay attention to what's going on around the world. One thing we cannot forget is the tight labor market. I was talking with someone today, earlier, just saying hello, and quickly that became a topic of conversation. I think we are in a place where we're going to be dealing with labor challenges for the rest of your working careers. And a lot of you look like you have long careers ahead of you. But it really has been a change. And we'll cover some of the other details that go along with it. But I think companies are going to have to look at the new norm. The new normal is that finding employees is very important. I just wrote an article that got published in Industry Week, and I'm talking about a different topic called retention. And maybe as we get into some questions, we can talk about that. But I think companies need a retention plan. We have to keep who we have. We have to work harder at it. Even though our firm nationally is talking about what we're calling re-recruiting our employees. We're really trying to get reconnected to the best one. So even though we got to go out to try to recruit new people, we can't recruit and find enough people to fill all those spaces. This slide clearly shows that we're finding that there are more opportunities for jobs than there are people versus the separations, and that's expected to continue. And it's a challenge that started years ago. I was just starting to read a book called Hillbilly Elegy. Anyone ever heard of it? Talking about kind of this idea that we see both in assimilation, but as people move onto different jobs, I think this middle class that used to rely on some of the automobile plants and some of the heavy industry for that middle class job, those positions really disappeared with the recession. And the challenge is those jobs really have to come back, and I'm not sure that they're going to. That may be a debatable question we can get into. One thing we can't forget about in the Hillbilly Elegy book, an interesting topic, is the opioid crisis, that we're finding a challenge of the number of people who are willing to work is up. The challenge is that those counties that are really reliant on manufacturing jobs, the opioid crisis actually is worse. As people have looked for other things to do, and there's been a change in economics. So a lot of issues, I think, that are creating some challenges. I really like this idea of sector. So you can maybe study this and take a look at it, but think about the sector where you fit. This is really, I think, an indication of, as I've thought about it, it used to be, we go back into the early 2000s, every industry, every sector really was in a position of strength. It didn't matter. I called it the dumb people were making money. But that doesn't work anymore. I think you really have to be smart. The world has gotten much more challenging. So we have to look at, where are we finding? Clearly we know that the motor products, automobile markets have been very strong, and I think we'll provide slides. I'm happy to share these at the very end with you. But as you look at where we are, there are some places that have strength. I have some clients. I still serve as an audit partner. I got some clients that make some products. Some are selling into the specialty sports products. Some are selling into the agricultural market. So part of their business is actually doing very well. Part of their business has been struggling. We're now seeing a little bit of recovery in the agricultural space. If you sell into the energy space, we would think it would be a good time. We have lots of wells that are sitting there that got expanded and don't need that heavy equipment that they originally had. They just need to get them restarted. So they're probably having more of a challenge around people than they are about needing to put sense in. And there are some places, again, that continue to have some challenges. I was just looking at CNBC in my room before I came down. Boeing is having its worst day in, I think, 20 years as a result of both the market was down today as well as the crash that happened. But although, if you were to think about Boeing, though, their business should look very strong. Boeing's got a plant in South Carolina. It's about 3 hours from Charlotte. Their business in the Charleston, South Carolina market, great place to go visit and see some history. But they've got Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, and Boeing all at plants in that marketplace. So I think companies are finding they want to make the product where their customers are. They don't edge. We're going to make it where we are. No longer this idea that I need to ship it around the world. So we think about a policy outlook. We clearly know the Fed is moving rates up. We're expecting to see our deficit hit $1 trillion. I'm scared. I mean, that's a really, really, really big number. And the fact is, it doesn't appear when I was in Washington, and I get there a couple of times a year. That's about long enough. After about 2 days, I feel like I need to take a shower and leave the city. But the challenge is we're not getting anything done, and I think we as business people and as individuals need to figure out, maybe look out for ourselves a little bit and figure out where we're going. But that deficit is continuing to move along. We're spending a lot more money. We've seen, if you're selling into the defense space, defense industry, I think you have to feel good. But one of the challenges we think that maybe something is not going to quite happen is the infrastructure. Those talks that we need to fix our infrastructure. We saw that when I landed last night at your airport, they're clearly trying to make the airport look better and spiff it up. But I think they're trying to make some inroads. The real challenge will be, is there enough money to make that happen? The word I got, at least when I was sitting in Washington in September, was there's really not enough votes to make that happen. So they don't expect us to see any kind of infrastructure bill this year. Now we'll have to see what happens. We get to a split Congress, and all of a sudden I think things will change very dramatically. But there is one thing that has really changed pretty dramatically, is the idea of regulations. Many manufacturers have talked about the burdensome environment of regulations, and there's no question that the Trump administration, whether you like what they're doing or not, and I don't want to get into politics here, but from a regulatory burden, we had seen that during the Obama years, the regulatory burden had increased significantly, and there is no question that it has been lessened, and I think that has been a benefit and part of why some of the manufacturers today think that we are in a much better position. So I think what we're looking at is that on a go-forward basis, interest rates should continue to tick up just a little bit. I'm not an economist. I'm taking this from the economists that work for our firm. And in spite of what the president is saying that he doesn't like it, when you think back, my first house, the mortgage on my first house was 12.5%. I know it was a really long time ago. It was back when Michael Jordan and I were at Chapel Hill together. That's my claim to fame. But money market rates were paying 15.5%. Today, you can't make any money on your excess cash. So we're all trying to chase return, and we're putting money in the stock market. We'll just have to see where they turn out. All right, so I'm talking about 3 T's. We're going to spend the rest of the time chatting about that. But if you have questions, raise your hand. I'm happy to answer them or take any kind of opinions that you may have. So we're talking about 3 T's: taxes, trade and tariffs, and technology. Any other T's you guys want to talk about while we're here? We're going to talk about sweet tea if we were in North Carolina. Can you serve sweet tea here? Yeah. And we maybe we can get into some technical issues, but we think these really are some of the 3 key topics that we're seeing, and I'll try to tell you some stories. So taxes. We clearly know that the tax reform bill that got passed was significant. It was the biggest overhaul since going back to the Ronald Reagan years. As CPAs, I think all the Harding-Szymanski group in here, and I would tell you that we were pretty happy that we saw a tax reform bill. That's good for our business. But what we have seen is, actually, companies are pretty slow to respond. I think the uncertainty, this overhang of what's going on with trade and tariffs is creating some uncertainty. We're seeing uncertainty around what's happening around interest rates, some of the policy issues, and clearly I think there's some uncertainty about what we expect to happen from a political perspective. So as a result of some of those uncertainties, but what we saw is built into this, I think, was at least the first major corporate reform in many years. If we go back before this reform took place, corporate taxes in the United States, at the C Corp level, not flow through, but the C Corp level, were the second highest of all developed countries in the world. Only Japan was higher than us, and then in Japan they made it to get below. We use this as an opportunity in order to be competitive, because what we're trying to do, we're competing in a global world. We want to attract those companies to the United States. When Intel wanted to build a plant, Intel decided to build it in China because its overall cost of doing business was cheaper. Ultimately, though, I think what we want them to do is to build it here and ship those products into other markets. So we saw a corporate tax rate went from 35% to 21%. I think that's a benefit. The repeal of the alternative minimum tax, some of us are in alternative minimum tax from an individual standpoint. I don't think we understand how that works. We put it into our computer and it tells us what's going on. Well, I think we also saw is for those flow-through companies, people react based on the tax law. I mean, that is the job of a good CPA, but also a job of those that are involved in businesses to figure out capital. And capital gets taken up by taxes, so that if I have a way to save money, I'm going to seek it out and find the most effective way. So they found a way to reduce the pass-through through a deduction in order to make it advantageous so that S corporations have some benefits. Clearly, with the arena of expensive capital additions, the intent of that is to encourage companies to take their money and invest it. Now, a downside to it, I'll tell you a slight story, where a company was buying a business that leases airplanes. They take these custom airplanes, they retrofit them, and then they lease them to the U.S. government. The U.S. government, because of their budget issues, only signs one-year leases. Now, one would think that doesn't make any sense, but that's the way the government works sometimes. The guy paid about $100 million for the business, of which $80 million of that was for assets. And they had the ability to expense $80 million on the day they made the transaction. I don't believe that that was the intent of the law. That is the law, and it demonstrates, I think, how it actually worked for them. But if you're in business and you need to go buy a piece of equipment, the idea is you should be able to go buy it and expense it today. That is historically proven to be effective in getting companies to make some of those capital investment decisions, and we're hopeful we'll see that. What our results and some of the surveys our firm has done through our real economy and middle market business index, we would tell you as companies haven't moved as fast as we thought they would. And the government is concerned. I think we're seeing some of the politicians speak, and again, it speaks to this uncertainty. Research and development credit. Anyone take advantage of the research and development credit? Good news, and we want to be able to continue to do it. If you're not taking advantage of it, and you're doing things in your business, you really should talk to your advisors about that. One of the big things that we think will be impactful is limitations on interest expense. The biggest change in my 35-year career has been private equity. Private equity has been a source of buying middle market companies, depending on, I've seen it buy companies for $5 million in revenues, on them to companies that are clearly much bigger. They're the ones who are going to get impacted by it. So as an example, a client of mine got bought by another private equity group as a result of their international business. Even though they were paying taxes at the highest rate, and it was just saw that it was cut, they're not going to see any real advantages because of the interest limitation. And then there was this domestic production tax credit. So I think what I'm trying to demonstrate here is there's been some changes in the law. They were all designed to spur business in our country, but we're not quite sure whether it's all going to pay off. And so there's another case I want to talk about, what we call Wayfair. Anyone heard of Wayfair? Besides all the CPAs in here? Well, hopefully those that haven't heard of it are going to be familiar with it. So if you go back, there was a case called the Quill. Quill was the old sales tax case that was decided going back into early 1990s. And it really was about how states decided whether they were going to assess sales and use tax. And so bear with me, I want to make the connection for you. But that law really stood the test of time. But you can see from the first statistic up here, the number of people that have online access has dramatically changed, which really says today business has changed. I think we can all acknowledge that the business world has changed. And so it was really time for a change in this rule. And so what they did is they came back with Wayfair, and the states really were deciding they needed to modernize what was going on with this law. They need to look and say, no longer is this physical presence going to be the way in which we're going to assess sales and use tax. We really have to look at things a little bit differently. The states are estimating that they're losing billions of dollars a year, and we know that all the states are pretty well, I won't say broke, but most of the states every year need more money. We think our teachers need to be paid more, but we don't have the money to pay them. And one of the things we've seen clearly is mail order sales. And it's just crazy, right? You can buy something today online, and tomorrow it's there. It just shows up, and we don't quite know how it's going to move there. we do know, though, and I'm going to deviate for a second, one of the things I think we know that this whole idea of mail order is that it's having an impact on logistics. They don't have any logistics problems with their business. If you're not, be aware that you may. The challenge is that our logistics platform in this country, the whole infrastructure and the network is really under a significant amount of pressure. As we're looking to keep trends for 2019 with our firm, we think the whole idea of managing the logistics, the supply chain from the delivery of product to you to the delivery to your customers, ultimately is going to be one of the key issues. So pay attention to the logistics if you're not already doing that. What we're trying to get to here is that infrastructure. The sales that really have increased from what was once $180 billion now to $450 billion has really changed the dynamics of it. And it once has removed what used to be the so-called bright line. If you have a physical presence, if you have inventory, if you have an employee, those issues really are changing dramatically. So what we think, though, manufacturers need to be aware of is that there may be really some issues that, even though the quill was reversed, but it is changing as it relates to use tax, and we think it may even have an impact when we get down to income tax. There's really that bright line. That is going to change. So we think it's important for all of you to work with your advisors to really understand what's going on in the states in which you operate. Now, there is such a thing as use tax, and we have seen states get very, very specific. That if you are buying product that you're not going to resell, you're supposed to have use tax exemptions, and you're supposed to have them on file. And we have seen represented companies who have been audited because they didn't have the proper documentation. They have received assessments in the millions of dollars as a result of not having the right documentation. So I think I would suggest that all of you be concerned about making sure that as it relates to use tax, you are complying with it, because we think this is going to create an opportunity for the states really to open up and to pay a little bit more attention. So what we're seeing ultimately is that, that we think they got the taxes had an impact, and we're supposed to be, again, good for our economy, but they got a little bit more complex, and we think ultimately the idea of adding some of these carry-forward credits will be very effective. Anyone here operate internationally? Just a couple. It got pretty complex. Again, as CPAs, we're excited about that, but it did make it easier, and in some cases it made it a little bit more challenging. I see a couple of nodding heads acknowledging that, and we don't know all the rules. We're still waiting for some of those rules to get resolved. So we'll have to see. But it may create some idea and opportunities as you look at transfer pricing and you're looking at other countries. But one of the things we do expect to happen is the states are going to get more possessive. If you're operating in the market, they're going to look for more ways to find some taxes. All right, so let's get to the good news. Well, maybe not the good news, but I think when we put the street up, where are you? So maybe show of hands. Who's affected by tariffs? Okay, and if you did raise your hand, you didn't acknowledge that it probably means that some of the products that you may buy in the future will be impacted by it. We're finding a significant amount of confusion. As I had an opportunity when I was in Washington, one of the questions I asked manufacturers of all sizes is, how are the tariffs affecting you? And I had a variety of answers. I'll cover some of those. But it really demonstrated that, I think globally, this whole idea has really had some impact. And so when you think back, President Trump and his advisors have a view. I don't know whether you agree with the view that they're taking, and I'm not going to tell you that I agree with the whole view that they're taking, but they have taken a view that says China has been abusing the trade system for many, many years, and they're going to do something about it. Now, they also decided that they wanted to withdraw from TPP. Again, don't know whether that made any sense. I think there was agreement that the NAFTA agreement needed to be redone. If I go back and think about NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, one of the industries or the sectors that got decimated as a result of NAFTA was the textile trade. And so clearly in my home state, in my backyard, we saw companies affected. Now there were places that benefited, but so what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is, in every trade deal, there are winners and losers. And you need to make sure you figure out how you're on the winning side. But there are always going to be trade winners and losers. And so I don't know whether any of you are feeling lost, perplexed, bewildered, disoriented, frustrated, mad, angry, maybe all of that. So let's talk about how we got to where we are today. So we had bilateral deals. We had the trilateral deal between U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Canada is one of our vital trading partners, as is Mexico. We can't forget that they're very important. And those agreements needed to be redone. They needed some modernization. How we went about it was, kind of the let's blow it up and then see if we can put it back together. I think the president seems to like the idea of, let me see what it shakes out. But he likes to shake things up pretty good. But what some of the key changes that did result from it is that we're going to see more auto plants, more parts for auto products now need to be made in the United States than before. It used to be 62%, it's now 75%. The next day after they announced some of these provisions, Mercedes, which has a plant in Alabama, announced that they were going to look at a $100 million expansion of their facilities there. They're making cars in the United States, and actually Mercedes is now exporting some cars that are made in the U.S. The BMW plant, there's one in Greenville, South Carolina, an hour and a half from Charlotte. They make every X3 and X5 in the world in that plant. So what's going back to what it used to be done, if you went back 20 years ago in the auto trade, it's very different. We're going to see higher wages for auto workers in the U.S. I think that's okay. There's been a big battle in Canada around dairy. Canada's been very protected, and there's been some loosening. But until they get the final deal works out, any of those tariffs are still in place. So the tack that the Trump administration has also been following is that we need to work out some deals with Japan. So that is in process, and they are pretty close to negotiating that. South Korea is very close to a deal. We know that Europe, he brought the trade representative from Europe to the White House, and he proceeded to blow that up. And the trade minister came and brought him a little bit and says, we want to make a deal. And so if you think about what's happening, is instead of getting into TPP in China, if you remember, was not a part of the TPP deal. It was all the other countries in that area. What Trump is effectively doing is encircling China, getting a deal with all these various countries. And so what I'm suggesting to you is we don't expect a deal with China to happen anytime soon. And as much as he's indicated in the news this past week that he's not even going to negotiate until China tells us what they want to do, and before we even think that makes any sense. And so it's a strategy. I don't know whether you like the strategy or not, but it is a strategy that's making some sense. So it really is, we think, creating some challenges on the road ahead. I had an opportunity to hear a guy named Ian Bremmer speak. Ian Bremmer is a noted, I think you should go find out, he's got a Eurasia group. But he's noted, he's had dinner with every major politician in the world. And he doesn't expect that we're going to get into a trade war. Now, I don't know that we're in a trade war yet. We are in a trade scuffle. We're in some phrase here, we're not quite sure what that is. But we're jabbing a little bit, but we haven't declared total war. What we're doing is posturing. But China really needs us. China doesn't want to risk the impact that the United States has on it. But what we can see is China's growth is slowing. They've had a consolidation of power in the country. They're starting to see some price inflation, and they've now got a middle class. And there are countries in this world that are now saying that China is no longer the cheapest place to have products made. They're going to Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Turkey. Look at the labels of products that you're buying and to see where it's coming from. Manufacturing will always find the cheapest place. When I think about the Northeast, and when we started our great country, it moved down, came to the South, went to the Caribbean, went to China, now it's leaving China. It's going to forever search for the cheapest place. The fact is the United States has become actually a little bit more cost-effective, primarily as a result of our money. So we're seeing some modernization around NAFTA, rules of origin. We're going to see how we settle some trade disputes. But we think we're seeing, with the USMCA, we're seeing some settlements. So let me share some statistics with you that relate to our relationship with China. So the second number is the goods exported that we, on the U.S. side, the United States exports to China $115 billion. On the converse side, China sends to us $426 billion. I don't believe it's all running a straight deficit is as bad as the president and some of his advisors believe. That we are a higher earnings, higher income country. Therefore, we can't take everything that we're going to consume. One of the things that gets lost a little bit is from the services perspective that we're exporting services of $54 billion, yet only importing $60 billion. So we do have a slightly different balance of trade. The challenge is we're sending them services in higher quality, higher innovative products. $147 billion trade deficit. That's a big number. But again, just based on where we are. But our exports to China account for 8%. We send more to Canada than we send to China. So we have to be nice to our friends. I think that makes some sense. But China is the second largest export market after the United States. So that is a role that we're seeing. Companies want to do business in China. The challenge that I've seen for the companies I work with is that generally many companies have set up business in China for purposes of manufacturing and sending that product back here to be consumed in the United States. Companies have found it very difficult to make product in China and then to sell it here. So to sell it into China. It's just a different market. That is what I believe the current administration is trying to battle, is the openness of the China market to the U.S. And naturally, a concern has been around our intellectual property. There has been a theft of that. I don't think there's any question about it. We'll just have to see how that whole thing shakes up. We continue to see investment. Chinese companies. Are there any Chinese companies in this area? Are they buying anybody around here? Maybe not. I think we're seeing in the South Carolina market, as a result of Volvo putting a plant, Volvo Motors is owned by a Chinese company. So they're now buying companies in our marketplace. So as you see that expansion, China's philosophy has been is to get the resources. If we need certain resources in order to run our economy, we're going to make sure that we bring that here. So we see the direct foreign investment. I think that number in China, that the U.S. invested $92.5 billion, but China has only sent back just $27.5. That number is growing. I think that we'll see that parity, but we still seem to find that it creates an opportunity. But if you think about Caterpillar, large global companies that have done business around the world, when China is slowing down, Caterpillar's business has been impacted, just simply because of the size. The view is that, going back to my high countries, Mumbai, that we're going to continue to see India show some significant growth. Now, so, go pick your country and pick, your state. And so I think what we thought we would show you here is you just get a little curious about, where are the imports coming from? And the products that are coming in here. And surprisingly, Ireland is Indiana's biggest import. Anyone know what that is? All right, we're going to have to do some research and we'll figure that out. But all around you, you can see that China is here. It really just would depend on that product. And I know as a result of the automobile industry, Mercedes and BMW in South Carolina, Germany will be there. In South Korea, we know that's in Alabama as a result of Hyundai Motors and Kia are there. So the automobile industry is really making that big difference, and clearly Texas as a result of Mexico. And then we think about export. Where are we sending product? I have never really seen this before, but if you see the countries, it's Canada, it's Mexico. I looked over, I just noted Switzerland. I'm not quite sure what Las Vegas is sending over, maybe rain. I don't know. Something we maybe can't describe here in public. So, how are companies responding to the trade tariffs? I think we clearly have seen aluminum and steel. I've got an interview coming up later this week with an online journal that's really trying to understand what's the impact on the middle market. And so what I thought I'd do is share with you some of the stories that I have heard from companies of what they're seeing. So clearly, the national inclination is, I'm just going to increase my prices. That sounds like a great idea, except that's not easier said than done, especially if you have price competition and if your prices go up by 10%, can you get a 10% increase? We think that companies have found that to be a little bit of a challenge. The companies are looking to expand into the to build their manufacturing facilities here. As I was talking with a company called Armstrong Flooring, it's a big company, but they use the recession, they use the reset. And so I would advise you that as you look for opportunities in your businesses, you see resets, look for those chances and opportunity to think about what do we need to do differently in our business. But they use it as an opportunity that said, we're going to start building plants back in the United States so that when it does come back online, we're where we need to be. We're suggesting that companies, and we're seeing companies look at alternative sourcing. If I'm buying from this product from this company, if I'm buying it from China, maybe there's another source in another part of the world. Maybe there's another source in the United States that changes some of it. And we're seeing the routing of products, getting to a little bit of creative tax planning. companies looking to bring product from one country, from China, through Europe, and ultimately through Europe back into the United States. They increase logistics, but they're trying to look at the total cost of the product. And then we'll think about substitution. Can I put different products? Can I reformulate the products? Can I use alternatives as a part of my manufacturing process? So here's some real-life responses as I talk to some companies. So again, this U.S. flooring company decided they were going to build a plant. We've had one company decide that they were going to absorb the cost and hope that this is short-term. I'm not convinced that we're in a short-term discussion here, that we're going to see the undoing. As someone once said that, when you undo a trade agreement, trying to put a new one in place and have it take effect takes a long time. So just be certain that if you're eating those costs, that may not be short-term. I was talking with a middle market, $15 million importer of fasteners, and he just decided I'm increasing my prices. He felt like given his small piece of the puzzle, the overall cost of his product into the total finished good was such a small piece that he was going to take his price up. And if he lost business, he was not worried about it. I did have an opportunity to talk to a company that makes grain silos and storage products. And he said he just hasn't quite decided what he's going to do, but he knows he's getting pressure from some of his customers to hold on to his costs. So we have seen where the end customer says, hey, I'm not going to look for any increase as a result of this tariffs. They're putting you on notice, and it creates some different challenges. And then we see companies that may have contractual terms, depending on who you sell to. If you have a commitment to deliver product through, let's say, February, well, people aren't going to let you change those prices, so you're really trying to play catch-up. One of my manufacturing clients makes products, and they have some index-based pricing. So in a commodity market where prices are increasing, that particular company is really facing some challenges because they're always behind. Commodity prices are going up, and they can never increase on the front side. So while they had hoped to see some margin increases, they're really feeling some challenges. Just a few stories that we've seen, some retailers and distributors are looking to do. Some are looking to do some of those same things. What was interesting here in some of the options is some companies are looking about doing sharing. So you may decide, well, I'm going to bring in some products. So manufacturer in China, you pay for a third of the product. I'll eat a third, and I'm going to ask my customer to eat a third. So we're equally sharing in the pain. Not sure that's happening, but I think it's some different ways. And we've also seen, companies trying to get around tariffs. If you recall the Sprinter vans, if you go back 4 years ago, the Mercedes Sprinter vans, they made them 100% in Germany. They then disassembled them and put them in crates and compartmentalized, brought them to the U.S. and then assembled them. And they did so because the tariff on a completed van that was coming in was much higher than the cost of assembling and paying the tariffs. Yeah, that sounds stupid, doesn't it? But the thing it shows is that companies are going to take whatever actions are necessary to protect the margins, to protect the profits. We have done that forever, and we will continue to do that. All right, so did I impress you? Not sure. All right, so let's talk about technology. I think every single manufacturer is a technology company. Given the changes that are taking place today with technology, every manufacturer needs to be engaged in using technology. So we think digital, and I'm going to share some statistics from a survey we did, but we're calling it the digital transformation for manufacturing. What could it include? Clearly, ERP systems that are online, cloud computing, process improvements, gathering data, using low-cost microprocessors to capture information as it's moving through the system, data collection and analytics, 3D printing. Anyone doing 3D printing? There's a neat company called Proto Labs up in Minneapolis. They are receiving 10,000 job requests for quote on a daily basis that people are sending them products and schematics and details for their products, and they're using their technology to print that for them. It is a much faster way to get to technological innovation than to try to figure it out yourself. We're seeing clearly robotics take place, and then ultimately the digital transformation is clearly impacting the workforce. We can't get around that. It is having an impact and will continue. What we need our people to do in the manufacturing space is very different than what we need to use them to do. Is that fair? I'll talk with one of the guys over here, just furniture manufacturing. It's different. What we need people to do today is very different. And so we see that there are barriers though to this digital transformation. Sure, I can tell you what to do, and you should think, well, let's go out and do it. Well, it's really not that easy. So we did a survey of manufacturers to try to get a sense of what's going on. The 43% of the respondents don't understand what their customers really feel like they need. And I think that sends a really important signal to everyone here is you need to understand what your customers demand of you. What information do they need? Now, they may very well turn around and use that information to drive your prices down. But that is what's happening. People are using information to their advantage. And only 27% are using big data tools, trying to analyze. So a company says, we make all these different products, but do we really know which customers we make the most money on? Do we know what products we make the most money on? Or how we're being bought? Do we have a concentration with our customer base? Using data is becoming much more effective and much simpler than it ever has been, and I encourage you to pay some attention to that. When we asked, people said that they're lagging behind their competitors, and only 2% have institutionalized it in their business. This is a big opportunity. But I got to tell you, it's not easy. The companies really need to spend some time with it. The 35% say the pace of digital change is too fast to keep up with. So if you don't have a sense of what your digital plan is, our suggestion to you is to start charting that out. And if you need to bring some people in from the outside to help you do that, you ought to figure that out. It's not just, we'll figure this out on our own. The pace of change is very dramatic. And I think 57% said that their internal bias towards what's familiar, what's low tech, is really keeping them there. Well, if you think about the industries that are no longer in the United States, that used to be here, there's a reason. And the fact is technology has changed, and they either couldn't change or the pricing pressures didn't remain the same, and they had to make some different adaptations for it. So we define what success is. If I were to say, what is digital, what's your digital transformation? I think the challenge is people don't really know what that means. So there's some books that I can recommend to you that I've just started reading. I'll look at it later on if we can get it to you. But it's about understanding this revolution that is taking place. It is happening, and the companies are going to be around you. You think about how did the technology companies of today get to be their size? Uber doesn't employ one driver or own one car. Maybe trying to get into it, but the fact is, the way businesses evolve, people are getting into different opportunities, they're finding different ways to make money. And so this is a story, maybe it's a joke, but it's about the future of a future manufacturing facility. A manufacturing facility. It'll have the latest robotics, it'll have one employee that's a human being, and it'll have a dog. The man's job is to feed the dog, and the dog's job is to make sure the man doesn't touch the computers. That puppy was too nice. I don't know. I should have really done it dog. But I think, if you think about it for a second, we're taking people out of the equation, but we're putting different people back into the equation, right? We're putting engineers, we're putting design people, we're putting software specialists into the technology space. I think it really demonstrates that, while not all jobs are moving in that direction, I think it really will be there. Everyone's heard of Tariffs, the big shipping company. I'll tell you a story. When I was in Washington, we had a cyber consultant team who spoke to us, and he told us this story. He says, so Maersk has people all around the world. They run these ships, they're moving product, and anyone else around the world. The U.S. invented or came up with this virus called not catching. Sitting on the sides, the Russians decided, well, let's just play around with this. They played around with it. They put it on the Ukrainians. It's an employee in Ukraine opened up his computer, unleashed this virus on their whole company. Maersk determined that the only computer in their entire network was in Ghana. Now, Ghana is not a hotbed of shipping, but that happened to be where it was in Africa. They didn't have anybody who could get into Ghana, so they had to send one of their Kenyan employees to Ghana to get this computer, bring it back out, which they could then upload and get their systems. They were down for almost 10 days, and the number is it cost them almost $1.5 billion in revenue. Hard costs, $1.5 billion. Don't open anything, is what I would tell you. But you need a strategy around it. So my point here is that from a digital perspective, cybersecurity is something that we think is very, very impactful in the manufacturing space. something I think we think companies need to pay attention to. So what are middle market companies doing? You need to really evaluate access to your system, because access is not always just your connected node. It could be a repair person, someone who's sending you information. I saw a simulation take place where someone's sending drawings into a client. Well, as a result of those drawings that are being sent to the manufacturer, there's a virus with that software and it affects your business. Could you imagine what happens? So it's a way of siphoning off and making sure that those items are safe. You need a contingency plan. We suggest you evaluate insurance coverage if it's not foolproof. You need a ransom policy. The city of Charlotte got hacked. It shut down the city, and rather than pay $38,000, our city manager decided to say no, and then proceeded to spend, I think, a week trying to figure out what to do. I know it costs more than $38,000, but you need a policy. Are you going to pay it or not? When it happens, you know what you're going to do, whether you like it or not, and you need to do intrusion testing. Can someone get in, whether or not we know it? Because there's other ways to get in besides just sitting on a various piece of machine. So let me do this. I've been rambling on for a little while. Hopefully I give you a little food for thought. But I want to summarize it in this way. The speed of change is intense. Every day, you just think about our jobs every day. It is intense. The number of emails, I can't keep up and I have to respond because it's either internal people that need me or it's my clients or, right? I mean, it is nonstop. We're having to work weekends to catch up. How do we stay on? So from a taxes standpoint, we think opportunities are out there if they lie in the detail. But you really do need to do a detailed review of how taxes affect you. Evaluate the cash flows. Look for it as a source of capital. And be wary of Wayfair and the effect that the sales and use taxes could have on your business. And we think we're going to see some changes. And as I said, companies that are internationally active, you are going to need some good advice because it is getting complex. For trading tariffs, you have to look at your supply chain. Someone says, oh, you can just change things. But you look at what's happening. China has this old, we used to call it the Silk Road or the Belt Road. They want to have a path where they need resources, those resources, natural resources, get back to them. That was Brazil's problem. They were buying all the natural resources from Brazil, and when they had made other inroads, they didn't need Brazil anymore, and look what's happened to them. China is creating deals. When I was in Africa about 3 years ago, big Chinese signs. They're building railroads, but they're not building it for people. They're loaning them money, and they've got some pretty onerous deals with them. So it'll be interesting to see, but we have to look out. And I think some of the trade protectionism that we're looking for makes some sense. But here my point is, the supply chain is global, and most companies have taken years to work the supply chain. If you're bringing in some raw materials or just some products or chemicals, whatever it may be, it took a long time to put that in place. You can't just go reinvent that tomorrow. So the automobile industry, what are they going to do if steel prices are up? They're going to have to deal with it. They're going to increase prices because they can't undo what's going on in their business. So think about your supply chain. And also understand you need to take a long-term view of your business. That some of the geopolitical changes that we're seeing, I think today, are dramatic. They are quick, and they're going to happen. The situation we're in today, this polarization of politics, started years ago, and largely this came from Ian Bremmer, as he analyzed it and said, this middle class, this group of people, there's a group that has not really participated in this recovery. I don't know anyone here doesn't feel like they participated, but for those that have, that's why our economy is still well. The upper part is continuing to spend. And then from a technology standpoint, we think you need to have a technology investment budget that you need to continue to invest. Whatever that percentage is, you need to increase it. Because technology is going to be, I think, the advantage, whether it's establishing better connections to your customers so that they feel they need you more. And if you're just providing a commodity, that doesn't work. So change that formula. Information that you can provide them can be helpful as well. Leverage that. We think that you need to move forward. You're going to get left behind if you're not taking some opportunities. And we think where digital adds value, it doesn't add value everywhere. Sure, if someone said, go invest here, go invest there, you would do everything. The answer is you can't do everything. You really have to evaluate what is that return on our investment. So if we think about what's happening today, Trade and tariffs are big. It's a big deal. It's going to be around for a while. Technology is where you need to be spending a lot of time. We're seeing some commodity price pressure. That's always going to be here. We are in a volatile world. Stock market swinging 400 or 500 points a day. So are commodity prices. And then managing your capital structure using taxes and debt. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yes?
Did you say that China isn't really buying U.S. products or U.S. products made in China?
So China is buying some of our products. I think going back to an earlier slide, they're buying the billions of dollars. But the challenge for U.S. companies has been manufacturing in China and then selling into China. If you're the biggest of the big companies, that's been much easier. But I had a company that's been importing textile goods. And the fact is, they said, well, this is where we're making the product. We have these designs. We just sell them to China. And it was an utter failure. The Chinese, the way they operate in business, I'm not trying to make a statement on all Chinese businesses, but the Chinese look out for the Chinese. And as a result, it's been a very difficult market. The biggest of the big, when they needed Caterpillar tractors, it's been easier to demonstrate and get into that marketplace.
So do you feel like that it's a good opportunity for U.S. companies to still continue to export to China, because the Chinese people really don't want to buy items that are necessarily made in China?
I think that's a challenging environment. I think for most middle market manufacturers, that's a very difficult structure. I think what we're seeing is companies are looking at either establishing joint ventures or arrangements with manufacturers in that company, in that country. It's about risk. Going to buy a factory in China is really, really expensive. Once you open a factory there, you have to house employees, get them to work, feed them, get them retire. It's a very expensive proposition. I think the opportunities are in the United States, the opportunities are in Mexico, Europe, even Central America. I don't think middle market companies first look ought to be going to China unless it's really an opportunity for something that may be very specific. Yeah?
I heard you mention logistics as an issue. We all, right now, are all fighting with the same over-the-road trucks and the same rail cars in the country. What do you see as becoming that will change that?
Well, the hope was maybe we'd have autonomous trucks that were driving down the road. It's about the driver, right? It's not always, there's enough trucks. It's really about having enough drivers and logistics space. So I think that's an example where that employment space is in. We've seen, at least the National Association of Manufacturers has a group that's really focused on attracting people out of the military. How do you find that person? I don't think there's an easy answer. Ultimately, I think it's about proximity. Is how close are you to your customers? And it may be that there's this idea I've heard called microfactories. Building that if you're vital to a specific business, maybe you do set up a small factory within a factory or within your customers' facilities in order to operate. Maybe eliminate some of that. I don't have an answer. If I did, I would be everywhere. But I don't see the infrastructure really changing. We're not infrastructure spending in this country on roads just because it's going to happen fast enough to solve that problem. We are stuck. Other thoughts? How does everyone feel about their business? Is 2019 going to be a better year than 18? Yeah, I think it's a good time for manufacturers. It's a good time, I know, for artisans. Martin Chemansky, it's a good, we're in a good space. This is the strongest our economy has been in many, many years. My encouragement, maybe in parting, is to think about the future. We are 10 years into an upcycle. It is the longest recovery that this country has ever been in without having to slow down. Most of us, some of us remember that, but I think we need a plan. I think it's lower inventories, trying to reduce your inventory levels to the right amounts, thinking about your future commitments. Now, we're not expecting a recession of anything that we have seen, but we see up and down cycles, and we're positioned just based on time. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but based on past history.